Okay, everyone, welcome to episode 360 of Wheel Bearings. I am Nicole Wakeland with CarBuzz.
I am Roberto Baldwin with SAE International.
And we don't have Sam, which is why I'm doing the show intro. Instead, Sam's on vacation, and we have Jill Ciminillo. Jill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm always glad to be here.
So I don't have to do it. Tell everybody who you are and where you write.
I do all of the things and write in all the places. No, I'm the managing editor for Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and I also do some freelance work, but I am a content creator on TikTok, Instagram, and all those other places as well. So I do things.
You do all sorts of things. So thank you for being our stand-in Sam for the week.
What's your job? I do things.
I do things. I am not an engineer, unfortunately, so don't ask me technical things. I will not be able to replace Sam.
That was all the questions.
Technical words like I don't know. Think of technical things. They spew them out really fast, and everyone will just go, "Okay, it sounds like she knows what she's talking about."
Yeah. With nickel metal hydride phosphate batteries.
There you go. Throw in something about like aerodynamics and what's the thing, laminar flow or something, and you got it. Yep. That all sounds very like we know stuff, right?
Perfect.
Okay, Roberto, would you like to start this week?
Sure. So this week I had the Stelvio Quadrifoglio. I don't know why I'm saying Quadrifoglio. All-wheel drive. It's bright green. It's fantastic as a driving car. Here's the thing. You're thinking to yourself, you know what I need? I need a really expensive hot hatch. And an Alfa Romeo is just going to cruise into your house and be like, hey, you got money? We got a hot hatch for you. And it's this little Stelvio. It's fantastic on the road. The only thing I wish it had was a manual transmission. It does not, because we can't have nice things because people don't want to buy manual transmissions. Don't yell at me. You're the problem, America. You've blown it. You had a chance and you blew it. Anyway. So it's got a 2.9 liter V6 twin turbo engine. Has a little 8-speed automatic, so you're not dealing with that whole weird what do you call it, CVT? Boo. And it's really fun, and it's really loud, and it's really great, and it's a hoot, as the kids would say in the 1930s. So your great grandparents would say. The greatest generation would call this a hoot.
With these knees, the bee's knees, is that older?
Maybe
the bee's knees. Thing?
Bee's knees. I think the 20s. What's the generation before the greatest generation? The Depression.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the Depression era.
Are they literally called that? It can't be that. Are they the
Roaring 20s. Anyway, old timey people, which I think is 1800s. They don't get a name in the 20s and 30s. The Art Deco folk. They would call this the bee's knees. It's really fun to drive. I think the seating position is a little too high. It could be a little bit lower, but that's what you give the people what they want. They want to feel like they're sitting higher than they actually need to, because they can see stuff down the road. It has these really great Brembo 4-wheel disc brakes, which I love. I love really good brakes. I like when you put in the car, and as soon as you put your foot on the brake, it's just like it lurches you forward. That's
but I mean, different color. I want them to be like yellow or red or some other color.
I don't remember. I gotta go look.
Come on, Robbie.
There's probably a picture somewhere on my phone.
I feel like they were a different color for some reason. I like it when the brake calipers are like bright colors. They don't even have to match the stinking car. I just wanted to be a different color.
It's the green is fantastic. What's the color? The color is called Verde Montreal Tri-Coat exterior paint.
There we go.
And I like it's Verde, and then right next to it, green.
For those of us who don't speak French.
Or Italian.
Or Spanish or Italian.
Or Italian. I guess is Verde Italian?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's Verde. I'm thinking French is Verde.
It's also Spanish.
That's right.
It's the same color. It's
like the same. It's all the same and very close, except in English where it's green.
Yeah.
All the green. Just green. Forget putting beans and things in there. Just green. We'll come up with their own way of saying it.
So driving it, outstanding. Nice tight steering, fun acceleration, just a great little vehicle to drive around in. Then there's the infotainment system. It's like hey, you know what? We got to put something in here because that's what the people want. It's slow. It's when the backup camera is kind of hard to see. It does work with air quotes. It does do the thing it's supposed to do, but this is not that. And you know what? Totally fine with that, to be honest. To be completely honest, if you're buying this car because you're like, ooh, I wonder how the infotainment system works. You're not, don't. If anything, you just plug in your phone and hope for the best.
Right.
Just plug in your phone, put on like Van Halen's 1984, or and then just drive around. No, it's not good. It's there. It does its job. It's on par almost with my 2014 BRZ's infotainment system, where it's like, hey, there's a screen. Okay, and it does things, and you can you can listen to Sirius XM if that's your jam for some weird reason, because you haven't realized that you can just subscribe to music that doesn't go out when you go in a tunnel. Yeah, no, I really like this vehicle. It's a fun little car. It's comfortable. It's got the side bolstering is out of control. So don't just buy this car. You need to sit in it, because
you're right. It's very tight.
It's hardcore. Like, hey, stay there, stay. It's like you sent a German Shepherd to like one of those 6-week camps. That's what it is. So yeah, no, I really dig the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, whatever.
I love that you can't say it.
I know. I can never remember how to pronounce it.
I always say quadrifoglio.
I think a foglio or folio. I've heard it both. Yeah.
Folio? Okay, quadrifoglio.
Oh, hey! That's good.
If I knew how to pronounce it, I can pronounce it with it.
There you go.
It's like Jaguar. Like, I'm always looking up how they say it. Like in a video, did they say Jaguar or they say Jaguar?
I can't.
Or if you're Steve Jobs, it's Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Yeah. Did he say Jaguar once? Is that
that's what like his jam was, saying Jaguar. Yeah, no, it gets 19 miles per gallon combined, 17 city, 23 highway. It's a small car. It doesn't get as good as gas mileage as that XM. I'm still thinking about that.
Yes, you missed that, Jill. The XM, I forget the numbers, but like it was rated
I had like 24, 25 on the way to LA and then 20 on the way back. It's rated for 14.
Well, and the funny thing was, after we talked about it, he sent us like a text to me and Sam, like, see, I'm not kidding, like with a picture of the dashboard afterwards.
Because I was like, because Sam was like, are you sure that wasn't kilometers per hour per gallon? And I was like, oh no. I'm like, maybe for some reason it was. So then I went out, but it would have been kilometers per liter, I'm assuming. So I went out to the car and I was driving and I'm like, oh, and I took a picture because I hadn't reset it yet.
This is evidence so that we didn't think he was crazy, or at least about that.
It was crazy. Yeah. I don't know what BMW is doing over there. I was driving like 80 miles an hour on the freeway like the whole time, but I was driving faster and against the wind on the way back. Anywho, this thing starts at $87,370, which is quite a lot of money.
It's rather a lot
for a hot hatch.
Yeah,
that's where everything just sort of falls apart because you're buying the Alfa name. It looks cool. It's a cool looking car. You're not going to look like anything else on the road because people in America are still sort of gun shy when it comes to Alfa Romeos.
That's kind of one of my favorite things about driving an Alfa is like it just looks different. You're not going to meet yourself coming around the corner. It's always. I think if I see one every 6 months here in New England, it's like, oh my gosh, someone bought an Alfa.
Ooh, an Alfa. When I lived in the city, I would park my cars on the cars on the street. And my neighbors knew what I did. And there was this gentleman who walked his dog, and he'd always like, oh, what do you got this week? And we talk a little bit. And then one day he saw me getting out of the Giulia. And he's like, I didn't think that doesn't seem like a car you should leave on the street.
Probably not wrong.
So I was like, it'll be fine. Anyway, everything together, it was $95,360. So $100,000 for a hot hatches. That's a tough sell, to be honest.
It's a unique hot hatch. It's sexy looking. It's fun to drive. It has crummy infotainment. I don't know. It's a lot, like you said.
Yeah. So
it's hard to swallow when not everything is awesome. Like if everything on that vehicle were awesome and like the infotainment system was great and, the reliability was better and all of the things, like then I think it would be much easier to swallow. I drove this. I had it recently, but I drove it a few years ago on a racetrack, and I was passing Corvettes. And like the Corvettes like got off of the track and they come up to me and they're like, what the hell is this? And how are you passing me? And I'm like, first off, I'm a better driver than you. But second,
there's that. Yeah.
Second, but yeah. So, I mean, it's a great, near perfect weight distribution. It's a joy to drive.
A couple years ago, I did, and I've said this before, I did the road trip with Rebecca Lindland when she relocated from Connecticut to California in her Stelvio. So we drove across the entire country. We spent days driving that car. I was either driving it or riding as a passenger. It was really nice. Like, it was great to drive. It was very comfortable. I wouldn't necessarily think that a car that drove so well in terms of the sort of performance-y driving dynamics thing would still also be really nice to road trip in. It was beautiful. I had such a nice time. It made me fall in love with it, but not with the infotainment.
Yeah.
That is the selling point. And that's a big part of a car. It's not like it's this minor thing.
It's a big thing that people really kind of care about. They really care about, CarPlay, as everyone's still angry at GM for that move with the EVs. Exactly. And
you've ranted about this. Is it fair to say you've ranted, Jill? I think you've ranted. And
I a lot.
Yeah, I wrote a whole thing about it. And so it's you plug that in, you're good to go for the most part. But it's like when you look at that when you put it in reverse and you look at the quality of the rear back of camera, you're like,
oh, is it bad? I don't remember.
Come on.
Is it bad?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's like I may as well just use my mirrors.
Oh,
God. Yeah, it's not. It's pretty bad. It's really bad. It's not. It's like 5-year-old. We just stuck it on a Camry, or the first Malibu. It's like it's small and it's not great looking.
Bad.
And you're just like, okay. I hope that blob isn't a child. Well, I'm sure it was a log, and you just drive off.
Just cross your fingers.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So that is. If that's what you care about, that's going to be. My weird thing is that if it's a fun performance car to drive, I care less.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care less, but I care less about the entertainment system. Because this is your fun car, but it's a fun car that's $95,000. Whereas my BRZ is a fun car that's $30,000.
That's easier to handle.
Yeah. So, you guys, you want to have we informed Jill of the destination?
So we guess on destination, and whoever comes closest just wins.
You win. You don't win anything. You just win the satisfaction.
Like, yay, good job. So, what do you think destination is, Jill?
I think it is 1,800.
Oh, I'm gonna go 1,695.
Oh, sorry, Jill. It's 1,595.
Oh, 15. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to go higher, but I was like, no.
Because it's Stellantis, huh? You were thinking.
That was exactly what it was. Stellantis.
You know what's funny is the Manila says FCA on it.
The NHTSA on their website, they still list all the recalls as FCA.
Oh, well. Well, there you go. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic, and if you do get one, you got to get the green.
It's such a good color. I love that green.
So it's so pretty.
It's like if you buy a Mazda, you have to get that. What is it?
Red. Oh,
full metallic. Yeah.
In Alpha, you have to get this green.
I saw a Mazda 3 wagon the other day in that red, and I was like,
"It's so pretty."
Well, you see it from like miles away, and you're like, "That's a Mazda." I have no idea which make or model, what model it is, but that's a Mazda.
Exactly. You can just tell looking on the highway. You're like Mazda. Yeah. Like before you even get there, that's a Mazda up ahead of me. You just know it's so pretty.
Yeah,
it's so pretty. They did such a good job with that. So, okay. So that's the Stelvio. Jill, do you want to go next and talk about your vehicle this week?
Yeah. So I had the Acura TLX, and I think it has probably been 6 or 7 years since I've driven a TLX. So, I mean, this is a car that has definitely not been on my radar. And ironically, as the managing editor for Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, I don't always drive a lot of cars, but I've started doing a lot of TikTok and doing a lot of my own YouTube. So I've started getting back into cars again. And this is a joy to drive. I don't know if either of you have had the TLX recently.
I feel like it's been a while. It was, as you were saying that, I can't remember the last time.
Every Acura I get in, I forget how great they are until I get into the Acura. That's the Acura. Because the Honda thing, you're like, yeah, it's going to be a Honda. You get in, you're like, all right, yep, drives like a Honda, it's solid, it's going to last forever. every Acura you get into, you're like, oh, I forgot all about Acura.
Yeah. Well,
like,
and Acura, kind of like Mazda, is a very underrated brand. And I know Acura tries to say they're luxury, but I like to call them near luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of competitive with an Infiniti or a Lexus or even a Mazda. But I was in the Type S, so I was in the top tier trim. It's about $57,000. And one of the things I like that Acura does is they don't give you a lot of options and packages. It's just like, you will get the Type S and you get everything. There you go. And so and it had all-wheel drive, and it had all the things. So $57,000 for that vehicle for me was actually, I think, acceptable. And the seats were comfortable, and so I'm on the petite side of things. I'm about 5 feet tall, and so it's really funny. As you're talking about the seat sits too high in the Stelvio, I was like, that was perfect. I have no idea what you're talking about.
See, okay, so you're fat. I'm a foot and 3 inches taller than you.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely. We're like,
I think everything, like every car I get in, I'm like, moving it down, moving it down, moving it down, moving it down. Oh, we're underneath the seat. All right, here we go. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and I'm like the opposite. I'm like going all the way up. And so, and I will say, just I'm also the person that when I get out of the vehicle and I'm handing it in, I always move it all the way back and down so that people don't eat the steering wheel. So I'm not the person. I'm not the person that because I'll get out of a car and and then I like be doing other things like at a rally or something, and people are like, Jill, were you just in this car? And I'm like, no, it was not me. I moved it back. I'm like, there's somebody else here who is driving short today because it was not me. But at any rate, I digress. So the TLX had a really good driving position. I was able to get up the seat really high. The bolsters were good. It's just a very, very comfortable car to drive. And so I live in Chicago, and I like compact cars. And this, I wouldn't say this is compact, it's midsize, but I like a car because to me, they're just easier to maneuver and get around in tight spaces. I back into a garage, I share a garage with my neighbor. People always find that really weird that I share a garage with somebody I don't know. But in Chicago, you have a lot of multi-unit buildings, and it's very common to share garages. So I share a garage with a neighbor, and they don't park well. So I'm always like, they do not. They always park on the center line, and so I'm always having to like maneuver around their SUV. And this car made it easy. And the backup camera is really good. It's got like a little around view portion to it. I did a whole TikTok on it because somebody was like, show us the camera. And if you're backing into a space with a neighbor like that you don't know and you don't like how they park, show us the camera. And I was like, all right, here you go. And they're like, wow, that is actually really good. So, the automatic emergency braking is a little bit aggressive, but it's fine. So I don't know. I like a good sedan, and I forget how much I like sedans because I've been driving pickup trucks and SUVs for a while. And then you get behind the wheel of something like this and you're like, this is a delight. It is a joy to drive. And, it's got as the Type S, it has 355 horsepower, powertrain system, 3.0 liter V6 engine. And it's just, it is delightful. And I will say I liked pretty much everything about it except the infotainment system.
I was waiting for where the infotainment is the downside.
Yeah, and it, but everything else about it is really good. And if you can live with the stupid little True Touch trackpad thing,
I can't.
I use a Wacom tablet, and I've been using one for like 15 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a pen, and wherever the pen is, that's where the cursor is on your screen. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to that. That, like, to me, it makes, like, as soon as I got in the car, I'm like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. Everyone else on the planet has been using a mouse or a regular touchpad, and it's not relative to your position. It's relative to wherever it is. But it's dynamic, it's not static. Yeah. So So everyone else on the planet's like, no, and I'm like, yay.
No, I hate it.
I can't.
And, for people who don't drive Acuras who might not be familiar with this, the idea is you have like a rectangle on your like console area, like where you would rest your hand, and they don't want you to touch the screen, heaven forbid. Maybe you'll get fingerprints on it, So instead of like touching the screen,
filthy fingerprints.
filthy fingerprints. So instead of touching the screen, you touch this pad, and you touch the pad where you would like to be touching on the screen. But to me, it's kind of like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. Like my brain does not connect. And so I'm just like, where the hell am I trying to touch on the screen? And where do I put my finger on this trackpad? I'm so confused. So I ended up just kind of swiping through, and I have a video on YouTube that I'm going to be putting out this week. I've got it edited. I just need to like get it uploaded. But just talking about this touchpad and how it operates. And what's really funny is my sister and brother-in-law, and I'm at their house right now. They just bought a new Acura MDX, but a 2024 RDX, 2024 Acura RDX. And I was like, I wouldn't do it if I were you. I wouldn't do it. You're not going to like the infotainment system. I wouldn't do it because it has that same true touchpad. And my brother-in-law is like, I don't mind it. It's fine. And my sister's like, I hate it. And I'm just like, but I mean, the good news is like, so my brother-in-law is a fireman, and when he retires, this is going to become his car. And then my sister will get a new car. And I was just like, okay, so you only have to deal with it for like a few more years. And then he can have this horrible touchpad thing that he doesn't seem to hate.
I don't like
Again,
that.
it's just me and other, and like maybe some like animators who also using some graphic designers. The rest of the world, like, what is happening? Why is this?
And
it's so opposite of how we've been trained to use a touchpad.
I think it's because, except for you, Robbie, most people have been, like you said, trained a different way. So intuitively, you touch the screen, you're like, why is this not happening the way I think it will happen? So I don't know. I've obviously driven Acuras with that. I've never driven an Acura for long enough where it becomes intuitive. We have these for a week, which is a challenge. Like you get a new car, or you sit down, like think about it, like sitting in a rental car. You have that moment where you're like, where are the wipers? How do I turn on the lights? How does everything work? Right. Mm-hmm. And by the end of your rental, you're just like, now I know how to use it. And now the car's I'm done with my weekend or whatever. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you had how long you would have to have this before this would be coming to you. Have to report back at some point, Jill, and say,
you got to check with your sister in like 3 months.
Yeah. Say if your sister's like, you know what, I got the hang of it, I like it, or she's like, I hate this thing. We'll have to. Yeah. She will be our test case for everybody on the planet. Yeah, I will. Because it is her primary car, so I will check back in. But so I mean, I will say, this is a little bit of a reviewer's dilemma, because you get into these cars, and I'll go from an Acura to a Volvo to a Chevrolet to a Genesis. And all of them have different operating systems. The wipers are in different locations. The gear shift is in a different location. Sometimes it's push button gearing. Sometimes it's a column shifter. Sometimes it's a stupid dial. And so, I mean, they're always different. And so there is that familiarity you have to get with the vehicle and with the operating systems. And it's like you just get to the end of your test and you're like, oh, now I get it. But so Mazda, let me bring this back around. So Mazda uses one of those control dial things. I hate that. It's my favorite of all of them. I can't get it. See, and that's just it. I drive a lot of Mazda vehicles, and the controller doesn't bother me anymore. It drives me nuts. I cannot get it. See, and that's every time I drive it, I'm like, I know how this works. I get a fair number of them. And I think, okay, this time it's going to be easier. Nope. I still have that. Oh yeah, this is how it works right now. I remember, but every single time it's a struggle. I feel like I'm spinning it like Wheel of Fortune. I don't know what I'm doing with that dial. Well, I will say I don't like it with Apple CarPlay. That to me is problematic, because you're trying to get from your side menu into your actual icons or whatever. And some of the Mazdas have touchscreen with just Apple CarPlay. And some of them don't. And then some of them you have to make sure you turn the screen on. Some of them you can do it in park, but not in drive. And I'm still trying to work my way through. Yeah. The inconsistency between what model year it is, what model it is, and how the touchscreen, not touchscreen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto works. But I even found the most recent one, it was a touchscreen. But then I would do that the minute I was not in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I would still want to touch the screen. I'm like, no. Even Rossi was like, what is happening? I'm like, only when the smartphone mode is activated. He's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. That's just
because somebody at Mazda thought that was a good idea.
Right. There's a lot of confusion with that one. It's not consistent, which is the hardest thing with that system. But average human, like you said, is not popping into a different Mazda every month and a half. So I imagine once you figure it out, you figure it out. But
yeah. And I mean, I have a friend who owns a Mazda CX-5 and she loves it. She's fine with it. So
they're such nice cars. And like we said before, that red. I mean, can I get by this just so that I can have a car in that beautiful red? It might be enough to, might be maybe.
Yeah. And she has it in that beautiful red. And I was just like,
it doesn't matter what the touchscreen is at that point.
Yep. She's got the beautiful red.
She can be frustrated as heck, but she looks really good driving down the highway.
Yeah, she does. She does.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media.
Okay, so actually, this is funny. The car I have, I'm not going to complain about the infotainment on this car. This is actually okay. That's the only car we have this week where it's not a pain in the butt. I had the Toyota BZ4X. I'm not going to complain about the infotainment because I'm kind of going to complain about everything else.
But the infotainment is awesome.
The infotainment is awesome. No, and the infotainment is fine. I mean, Toyota has a decent.
Which, by the way, for a Toyota, that's big news, to be honest.
Right?
For years, it was less than awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So they've managed to correct. I feel like the infotainment is good. It has like a 12.3-inch screen. It's really big. It's nice. It's well positioned. It's fantastic. There is a little bit too much piano black in this car. It's we complain about it because it makes fingerprints. It shows scratches really easy. I mean, it's a kind of thing, piano black in a car where you could toss your keys into a cup holder and you have now left scratches all across the black that you don't. And if you do that a lot, suddenly it makes it look really crummy. It shows dust. It also, in this, the one drawback, there's so much of it that there was actually glare. I turned a corner once and I had the sunshade open. I was like, like I was blinded by my own center console. I'm like,
God.
I can't say what happened. The center console, the piano black is so bright. But it's fine to drive. A lot of people complain about driving. And actually, I didn't mind driving this. I feel like it has, you're not buying this because you're looking for a super performance vehicle. If that's what you're looking for, why are you looking for something like this? This has, there's either single motor front wheel drive or dual motor all wheel drive. Single motor, 201 horsepower, dual is 214. It's not a huge increase in horsepower. Torque is a little bit more significant between the two, 196 to 248. I was in the all wheel drive. It's plenty responsive, and it still has that when you hit I still want to say gas, when you hit the accelerator, it moves. You still have that instant EV torque. Is it like driving something like a Lucid or, a Tesla with their ludicrous modes and all these fancy modes? No, it's not aggressive like that. But again, this is not the price of those vehicles, nor is this a performance.
Not everyone needs Tesla insanity.
Right? I'm totally fine. I even like how this drive. I had to drive it back and forth through two things. Really stupidly heavy traffic in Boston because there was an accident, and it was one of those, we merged around all into the right-hand lane on a 4-lane highway and then had to merge back. And then we all started going full on, and then there's another accident. Like, I don't know what happened last Thursday, but Boston forgot how to drive. So it was kind of gnarly traffic, and it was very easy to drive through. And this was really impressive, they're repaving. When they first pull up the old pavement and you have that really super rough.
Yeah, they're all graded.
Yeah.
It's all like graded, and it's awful. Like, you could be driving a luxury car and you can hear it. I was thinking like, okay, this is going to be a really long drive. It wasn't that bad. Like, you knew you were on that kind of rough pavement, but it wasn't horrible. And even all the seams from like rough to paved and rough to half paved and it actually handled that really well. So in terms of driving it, and the smoothness of the drive and the quietness of the drive, I actually thought this was pretty good. What I didn't like, and I even reached out to you about this, Jill, what I really, 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 really didn't like is the way that the instrument cluster is positioned. So it's kind of like it's down further, like on the dashboard. It's further away from, it's not real close to the steering wheel. It's further back. It's kind of down this little tunnely kind of thing. There's like sort of sides to this little thing that leads your eye down to the instrument cluster, which is just fine. It shows the information you want to show. It shows you charging information. It has everything you need on an EV. However, depending on your height, you cannot get it so that the instrument cluster isn't significantly blocked by the steering wheel. I am telling you, I tried everything. I tried adjusting the steering wheel. I tried adjusting my seat. I'm playing
It's got to be really high.
It's
like up here.
it's actually, they want it low.
Low, but the thing is, if I get my seat so I feel like my view of the road is right, I can't see this. So then I have to put it really low. But then I feel like my hands are too low. Like, it's
your
too
hands
low.
are in your lap.
My hands are in my lap. You can't drive well. So to actually put it so that my line of sight for the road and my driver position felt right and the steering wheel felt right, it literally went directly through the middle of the screen. So what I had was the time and the temperature. If you want to know how fast you're going, you got to either look down or you have to look over, which is not ideal. And then even
as you're going faster, so the law of thermodynamics works is as you're going faster and faster, you're creating heat because of the friction. So if you're watching the temperature go up, you're going too fast.
Oh, is that how that works? If
That's
only
how they want you to do it. They want you, if you're doing 7,000-8,000 miles an hour, you need to slow down.
Well, and it was as I'm driving, there was a point where I was driving, Russ is in the car with me, and it beeps at me. It's like, bing, 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 bing. He's like, what is it telling you? I'm like, I don't know. I can't. I'm trying to look. I'm like, I don't see any. In my head, I'm like, up, down, left, right. I don't see any warnings. I don't know what it's telling me, but I don't feel like I'm about to hit anything. I'm not cutting anyone off. It was really frustrating. And I reached out to Jill because Jill, as she just said, is short. For you, Jill, you didn't have a problem.
She didn't say she was short. She said she was 5 foot. She never said, I'm short.
I am short.
I mean, I feel like you're vertically
like Jill said, she's short.
I'm short.
You didn't have that problem. You thought it was okay. You did not have trouble seeing around it.
No, I actually thought it was perfect. And I do usually like drive with the steering wheel lower anyway. And I don't know if like Toyota designed this vehicle with me in mind, but like everything about it was perfect because, I got the steering wheel in the location that I wanted, and the top of the steering wheel was just under the sight line for the gauge cluster. And the gauge cluster is positioned in such a way that you can't not see it when you're looking at the road. And so there's no head-up display. There's no, this effectively is the head-up display because it's just like, for me, being short, it's literally like right in the right location. And I remember when they launched the vehicle, sitting in it the first time, and I was just like, ooh, and it wasn't on, and so we weren't adjusting the seats or anything, but I was like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to be, because it looked like the steering wheel might bisect the gauge cluster. And then once I got in it, I adjusted my seat to actually drive it. I thought, oh no, this is perfect for me. But yeah, when you reached out to me, I was like, yeah, so maybe you should reach out to somebody tall.
Well, I did, and here's the thing. So I started talking to you. You're on the shorter side. You're petite. How's that? You're
yeah,
petite,
I'll go with that.
So it was fine for you. I talked to a couple other people. One of them is another writer at Carbuzz, Jared Rosenholtz. He is 5'8". I'm 5'6". He had the same problem, but the interesting thing was he had the Subaru Solterra, which is essentially the same car. These were co-developed. Yeah. There's cosmetic differences, but Subaru changed it this year, so the steering wheel it's flattened a little bit on the top and bottom. By that amount, and he's like, I have pictures I can share with you. That little bit of flattening, he said, now he can see. It took care of the problem. So just that tiny little skosh of change in the steering wheel made a difference. I asked Toyota, and they're like, of course, can't say anything. That's a future product comment. We can't tell you what we have planned, but I would love to see them do the same thing, because I think then that it wouldn't impact your ability to see it all, Jill, but it would make mine better. I talked to Jared. He's 5'8". You're short. How tall? You're just about 5 feet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're about 5 feet. I talked to some folks that were like more in the 6 foot. I'm like texting friends. Who do I know? Have you driven this? How did it do? Have you driven this? How did it do? It felt like people who were shorter had no problem.
Ew.
People who were like my height, like 5'6", 5'7", and taller, struggled to get the right mix. Have you driven it, Roberto? What did you find?
I have not driven it, which is weird. I haven't driven a lot of Toyota. I kind of made Toyota angry once.
Well, I'm making them angry.
So I haven't, and the people who do the Toyota fleets here, the fleet manager for the Toyota vehicles is doesn't really get back to me, whereas the fleet manager for the other vehicles is like amazing. So I just go with the amazing. I'm going for the path of least resistance.
Yeah, okay.
And so I haven't driven but I'm going on a Toyota thing, and I'm going to be driving the Prius Prime for the first time, the new one. So it's been a while since I've driven a Prius. So yeah, so I'll probably start getting more vehicles. And I told them about it. I'm like, yeah, it's just, it's kind of they're like, you haven't driven any? I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to get the cars, and I just don't bother if it's going to be a pain in my ass.
Right.
They were like,
too much of a challenge.
Okay, we'll figure that out. So I'm sure they'll probably throw me in it. But I am a big fan of the putting the dash cluster on the steering column. So there's no matter where you're sitting, like the ID4 and
it moves it up and down.
Yeah, it moves it up and down. It's always there. Yeah, no,
if this did that, I think it would be good. And and it's funny because I like driving this car. I actually really enjoyed driving it. I didn't really have complaints about it in terms of drivability, but that threw me every time. And you sort of, when you're driving in the highway at the flow of traffic, you're just going the flow of traffic. But suddenly when you're not in a pack of cars, like when I was coming home and it was late, I'm like, how fast am I going? I had to like duck down because I had no sense. I'm like, am I speeding or am I?
Where am I going?
I'm going too fast. I should look under the steering wheel and find out. So that was my gripe. The BZ4X is just fine, but it's weird because it's the only EV from Toyota. There's hybrids, there's plug-in hybrids here, but it's our only pure EV because they've gone they hedge their bets, and I don't necessarily think it was a wrong thing to say okay, and they even have the hydrogen Mirai. So they have a little bit of everything. And this sort of felt like, okay, we got to have an EV a little bit. So we've done this, and the way they co-develop with Subaru. I don't dislike it, but I just don't, in terms of the range isn't super, it doesn't have a super long range. It doesn't charge as fast as some of the competition. If you're really all about the EV lifestyle, there are better options here. If you're a Toyota fan and you really want to get into EVs, then I think it's perfect for you. I wouldn't knock it, except that there's better options out there. Part of that is the price. It's only 2 trims. The base one is $43,000. The limited trim is $45,000. Not outrageous, but again, that's with front wheel drive. It adds about $2,000 if you want all wheel drive on that. So that pricing doesn't make it super affordable. And suddenly, when you look at the pricing versus other guys, their base trims outdo the Toyota BZ4X. So that literally is the challenge. It's not a bad car. It's just not as good as the competition. But what do you think? Take your guess.
Toyota, yeah. 1,200.
I'll say $1,195.
You said 12 wins. Jill, it's not your day.
It is not my day.
It's 1350. You're both really close.
Okay.
So those are my thoughts on the BZ4X. Like I said, it's a weird thing because I genuinely liked driving this little EV and it looks cute. It's super attractive. I have people asking me about it because my neighbors all know what I do and they're like, what's that? That's the same thing. I've never seen that. And I'm like, correct, because they really aren't selling wet cupcakes. You probably haven't seen this in a
You know
while.
what? There's a lot. Well, again, where I live.
You're in a bubble of EV.
I am. It's like I'm driving around in my Ioniq 5, and it's like every other car's an Ioniq 5. I'm like, come on. Now I just feel like I just want to.
Not the case here. I
might as well be driving a Model 3,
right?
At this point, everyone's driving the Ioniq 5. Few people, I'm like, should have got the
good car. See, like,
and cool. I thought it would be so wacky. People would be like, oh, I'm going to get the EV6 instead. Instead, everyone's like, yay, wacky.
Yeah, 5. So those are my thoughts on the BZ4X. I really hate how the instrument cluster positions versus the steering wheel, but it's an attractive car. It's nice to drive. It's just there's competition that's better. But if you love Toyotas, you like the Toyota reliability and all that. Although this did start off a little rough with that, with the whole wheels falling off situation. But they fixed that.
They fixed it. The wheels are sticking on. They're staying on now.
So
Toyota, we got wheels figured out.
We got wheels figured out now. We got it. We can do wheels. So so that's my feelings on the BZ4X. Also, I can't type the name right. I'm like, is it capital B, lowercase b, lower
Beyond Zero? Because I like when I was like BZ4X. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell does that mean? And they're like, well, BZ is Beyond Zero, and then 4, is I think they were saying 4. I have an article that I wrote about this like a couple years ago when they were trying to explain what BZ4X was, and I feel like the 4 was like how many doors it had, and then X was the type of vehicle it was. So like a crossover. So and they intend, or at least intended, maybe after all of the, like, I actually compared it to one of Elon Musk's children's names. So I think that after all of the criticisms that they've gotten about the name, maybe they're not going to go with this strategy anymore, but there were going to be more.
I swear I just saw something about other BZs not destined for us.
Like you got the Prius, you got the Highlander, you got the Tacoma, you have all these we got some names. Here's a name. And like BZ4X. Like, you're not even trying, are you?
The keyboard. Oh, that's the name of the car now. Yeah.
Let's get some random letters and we'll just come up with something about why it is.
If we half-ass the name, no one will want to buy it, and then we can just show everyone,
we tried, nobody wants it.
Nobody wants it. Yeah.
But then they look around, they see all the market they're giving up to the Hyundai group. They're like, damn it.
Like, we made a mistake.
Well, and it's funny because I feel like with EVs, it's like there's always one thing that's like, no, I can't buy it because of that. So it's a matter of if this is your one thing that's a problem. And, we were talking about this offline, or maybe we talked about a little bit about it online with the General Motors doing away with the Apple CarPlay in their electric vehicles. That's the one thing for me that would make me not buy their vehicle. But there are a lot of people who are Android users, or there are people who are, they don't use their phone in the car. And for those people, it's not going to be a problem. So if you're short, the BZ4X is not going to be a problem. And, it's going to be awesome. But I mean, I also, so like my mom lives down in Indianapolis and I live in Chicago. That's a 200-mile drive. My other requirement for an EV, if I were going to buy one, would be it has to be able to go from Chicago to Indianapolis without needing to stop to charge. Because there's one charger on the route, and it's always full. And one time I had to wait for 3 hours, and it was not fun.
Well, that's part of, I was saying that's the thing. If you're driving this around at home, if your day-to-day is probably not going to go over 200 miles, but if you're road tripping at all, the charge time and or charging speed rather, and the range just make this not an ideal choice. It just makes it tough.
Yeah.
It makes it tricky. Okay. So there's the BZ4X. So there's our vehicles this week. All right. Ready to talk about some stories? I got some in here from Sam and some I put in here. So let's start with the Sam one. He's not even here. Has everybody looked at the Cadillac Sollei? Am I saying that right? Sollei, right?
Sure. Like Band de Soleil, the 80s commercial.
Yeah.
Band de Soleil.
For the Saint-Tropez tan.
I didn't know what they said after that.
I was gonna say it's San Tropez, like ST.
Saint-Tropez can.
I did not know what they actually said there. I think like my entire life, and then I finally saw it written down. I'm like, oh, that's what they're saying.
That's what that means. Yeah.
Sand Soleil. Yeah, I can see that. You could drive around with the Saint-Tropez tan in this thing. I don't like the color is a little.
It's this
Easter. It's a little too Easter for me.
It's a little too Easter. It's this very pale yellow.
Yeah.
It's kind of beautiful. They say it's a sunburst theme. It's really, really pretty. But I don't know if I want my car to be this color.
No.
Yeah, everything about the car is awesome except for the color. It's
Manila cream.
Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a pale yellow. Doesn't it look like pale yellow? It doesn't look like cream.
Yeah. Maybe.
There's
even more yellow when you like go down to the live shots with people standing next to it.
Right? I mean, they have a woman. Their model,
the interior. Oh my God. That's very yellow.
Like when you look at the interior, so that's all wood. All that little bits on that. So the back of the seat,
that wood is cool.
It's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different shades of wood from a very pale natural to sort of like a darker color. Yeah. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely
very Art Deco.
It's one of the prettiest cars. I mean, in terms of just, is this beautiful? Yeah, this is beautiful. There's some design stuff happening here. I think it's lovely. But do you think they'll ever do anything like it?
No.
Anything? No. Do you think we'll see any single element of this ever in history make its way into Cadillac?
I don't know. It's hard. Cadillac is, I feel like they're a little gun shy and doing like fun wackiness. I think they're just trying to stick with the things that work.
I mean, I could see them taking, like, this to me is a design concept.
Even if we made 100, that'd be awesome.
I could see them like taking the taillight treatment maybe and putting that into future vehicles. I don't see them using that beautiful wood. That would be like,
it's so impractical. I mean, that and it would be outrageously expensive to do something like that. I mean, this is a bespoke type car, but that would be ridiculous. And also, if you ever had any humans actually ride in the back of your car, someone's going to hit that with something, and very quickly that beautiful wood would just get whacked, and it would.
This is the car you take to the Love Shack.
It's like the wheels, everything about this is really, really elegant. I mean, it's a beautifully designed car. As a exercise in design, it's just beautiful. I think it's stunning.
Yeah.
Just some other color.
Just some other color.
That's it. That's my only beef.
Colors. It says that there are 126 color options in each of the zones for ambient lighting. 126.
That's not that.
I usually see 64, and that's usually the max. So are there that many colors that can actually be put into light?
I mean, you can just keep, adjusting.
Keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting until you get exactly what you want.
Your first computer had 64 colors, and it had 128, and then it's 256, and now it's 60 gazillion.
60 gazillion.
Yeah, that's the official term.
The official number.
Gazillion.
I'll go with gazillion. That works. So do you like it? You guys like it? What, thumbs up or thumbs down in general?
I'm giving it a thumbs up.
I'm giving it a sideways thumb.
Because of the color? That's how much you hate the color?
No. I mean, there's some really interesting elements. I don't think this is practical, and I don't know that we're ever going to see, like, nobody's building convertibles anymore. I mean, everybody wants to do a convertible concept. Nobody's building convertibles anymore. And
for that, we're a sadder planet because
we are a sadder planet. I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty, but I don't know what they were trying to do here. And I'm also very bothered by the fact that they didn't put the, Sollei. They didn't put an IQ at the end of it.
Everything has to have an IQ. Maybe they're trying to break away from that. This is so concept. We're not even using the eek at the end.
They should have thought of that before they, came up with the Escalade IQ. So I don't know. I mean, if you're going to have a theme, go with a theme. I don't know. At any rate, I'm going to give it the sideways thumb.
Sideways thumb. Okay, that's fair. Sideways. I feel like I'm a thumbs up because I appreciate the design, like the things that are ridiculous, like the backs of the seats. I just think the back of the seats are so fun, are so beautiful. I would love to think that a car could actually have something that beautiful and not be something that was priced, like a Rolls Royce. I don't think that could ever happen.
A Rolls Royce or Maybach will have that, but
yeah, like that, doesn't it make you think of that? Which I guess is a good thing for Cadillac, right? You look at that kind of thing; it's the sort of thing you'd see in a several $100,000 car. Like you would be, if you saw that in a Rolls Royce, you'd be unsurprised, right? You're like, yeah, okay, Rolls Royce.
Well, how much they do have the Celestique? Isn't that like a $300,000 something?
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe we are very off base, and this is going to be their next vehicle, and it's going to range above that.
Okay, let's go with that.
I'm going to say that.
It could happen.
I did an interview with the head of Mini North America specifically to ask one question. I sold this interview to TechCrunch just to talk to them, but really all I wanted to know is, are you bringing an electric Mini convertible to the United States? And he said yes. And I'm like, all right, that's all I care about. Like there was a bunch of other questions. I don't remember what they were. They're about, blah, 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 sustainability, yada, 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 the future. All I want is an electric convertible.
Okay, that works for me.
So I'm going to give Cadillac all the kudos for this, even though it's a weird color.
Even though it's an odd color. Okay, moving on from Cadillac. Rivian, they opened the way this is phrased here. Rivian opened its first charging outpost. And the picture's adorable. Like it's near Yosemite. And there's free coffee. I mean, that alone, forget it.
I'm in. I'll buy a Rivian. If I get free coffee, I'm done.
You just told us you were going to get free coffee.
That's all that matters. Yeah, give me the coffee.
I'll buy your car. So they just opened this EV charging rest stop. It's 24 miles outside of the park, but it's not just a charger. There's bathrooms. There's a little lounge with a library, a water refill station, free coffee, and not free, make your own trail mix.
As a big fan of trail mix, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had Rivian.
Trail mix is not free. It says free coffee and not.
But you can make your own. I like trail mix a lot.
You could leave out. What would you leave out? What's the thing on trail mix they put in that you're like, ew?
Chocolate.
What?
I don't really like chocolate.
Oh, you weirdo! What would you leave out, Jill?
I would probably leave out chocolate too, because I'm not.
Yeah.
And raisins, because I'm not a sweet.
Oh, I love raisins. They're nature's candy.
Give me all the salty. Give me all the salt.
I would leave out the raisins because I feel like raisins are the devil's fruit. Like you think it's a piece of chocolate, bam, it's a raisin, and I'm always disappointed.
I love raisins. See, I'm the opposite of I guess the rest of the planet. I'd rather just eat raisins all day than eat chocolate.
If I accidentally have a raisin cookie and you accidentally have a chocolate cookie, we just need to swap.
Yeah, I would be excited.
Life is good. Okay, yeah, that works.
When I was a kid, I had a friend who, when I stayed at his house, he didn't like the meat on the bacon. He only liked the fat. So we'd rip our bacon apart, and I don't know, he's probably got his cholesterol levels probably out through the roof now. But at the time, we were children.
Everything is bacon fat.
He's like, my heart.
He was 25. He killed over from eating bacon fat.
He's like,
So this cool charging outpost. It's open 7 to 7, the shop area, and then the bathrooms and chargers are open 24/7. It's the first time they've done something like this, like building its little infrastructure of sites. Currently, they have 55 waypoint charging sites, but this is kind of a cool one. And they say they're planning on doing more of these, and they literally call them charging outposts at national parks and other high traffic areas. So I think this is kind of neat. What do you think about this? Would this make you feel better about driving your EV into areas where there maybe isn't so much charging as you might have otherwise had?
You had me at bathrooms.
I know. That's the thing. Like, okay, so I've driven down to LA a bunch of times in the last few weeks in EVs, and there is a charging station that's next to a Mexican restaurant. So A, I'm excited about a Mexican restaurant. B, there's a bathroom right there. So I just pull in, plug the charger in, rush in, hope that the charger's not working at full capacity. That's the thing. If it's running at full capacity, I got like 10 minutes with the, I'm like, damn it. But if every stall is full, then they're running like from 24 kilowatts up to like 84, which is just enough time to go inside, get like some enchiladas or burrito, use the restroom, make some horchata, just have a nice little relaxing time. But when it's like, it's running, I pull up and it's like, it's a 200 order. I'm like, man. And there's all the anxiety.
Rush.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I gotta find. They need a slower one. But yeah, no. Anytime there's a
Said
charging
no one
station,
ever, by the way.
Right?
sometimes I
They
just
need
want
a
to sit
slower
down.
charger.
I know. It's that's the trick is that you start getting. I'm taking I'm probably driving our Kona electric to Palm Springs today, which is 500 miles. The Kona only charges like 74 kilowatts versus our Ioniq 5, which charges like
How many
226,
miles does the Kona go for? What's the range on that?
256 miles.
You'll be stopping, taking
Yeah.
a break, having
Taking
some
breaks. So this is the I'm gonna just leisurely drive because we're it's a lease, so we're turning it in at the end of August, and we're so many miles.
What are you gonna
under.
get? You know what you're gonna get instead?
No, we already had the Ioniq 5. We just got so now we have two
Oh, you
EVs.
just got it early. Okay, gotcha. I wasn't sure if there was
because of the suite. We're paying $100 less per month for the Ioniq 5 than we are for the Kona. Because so we're getting the only problem with the Ioniq 5, the SEL trim, is they're both SEL trims. The Ioniq 5 doesn't have wireless CarPlay, which when you're just driving to the market really quick, like it's nice if your phone's just in your pocket still and it continues to play whatever you're listening to.
You have to plug it in. Yeah, I had a vehicle without wireless connectivity the day, and I didn't realize how much I liked the wireless until I didn't have it. And I was like, oh crud, I didn't bring a cable. Well, forget it. I'm not running back inside now.
Yeah, someone told me, someone at the car place, what do you call it, dealership, was like, oh yeah, it's like a licensing thing. Like it's technically it can do it, but I don't know. Hyundai's not going to tell me why.
They're not going to tell you why. So, okay. So our next story that we have on here, the Honda Civic Si is back. And you know what it has? That it's only available with a manual transmission. You drive an automatic, you're SOL. Yeah. So it's with a manual transmission, which makes me so happy to have a sporty little car with a manual. Yay. I feel like keep it alive. Come on, Honda.
Keeping it real. It's the kids. The kids are keeping it alive.
Kids are keeping it alive. So it's going to have a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine, 200 horsepower, 192 pound-feet of torque. That was the same as like the pre-facelifted model. So it's a tiny little car. It's going to be fun. Pricing. Okay. So pricing, it starts just under 30, literally 29,100.
9,999.
Last year it was the 2004 was 29,100. The 2005 is 29,950. $50. Technically it's sub 30K.
But does that include destination or not?
I'm trying to see here if it does. And it doesn't say that it does.
Probably not.
I bet it doesn't. So it's really just over.
Yeah.
Just over. So, this looks like it's fun. A 6-speed manual with rev matching. It's going to be a fun little car to drive. I'm kind of excited about it. What do you think? And you're seeing a little bit of the styling of it. What do you guys think of this guy?
I like it. I'm wondering if it would come in a hatch version. So my husband and I, full disclosure, have a GTI. So I'm always looking for the replacement for the GTI because ours is dropping oil like there's no tomorrow.
Oh, that's not great.
No.
It's just a constant oil change. That's all you're thinking of.
Oh, no, we have a tub of oil in our garage, and every time my husband parks in there, he just pours more in.
Oh, wow. God. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
maybe you should get that fixed.
Yeah, but you want the hatch. You want the hot hatch.
I do. I want the hatch.
I want the Honda hatch. That was, No, this is, Honda makes...
You wouldn't buy it unless it's a hot hatch.
I love a hot hatch. If it's a front wheel drive, I want it to be a hatch. That's the deal.
Okay.
TBD. My husband, he is a telecommunications broker, and so he always has a lot of gear in his trunk area, cargo area. I guess
you say it was junk. All of his junk is in his trunk?
all of his junk. He's got a lot of junk in his trunk. But he and he'll never hear that because he doesn't listen to talk radio. So, but he always has phones or modems or Euros or whatever. He's got stuff back there. And so I don't know how he would, and it's easy to reach and access in a cargo space rather than a trunk. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, it would be his primary driver, even though it's our car. So I don't know that he would go for something that's not a hatch. But I love it. I love the idea that it's manual only, and it's just like thumbing your nose at the, in the face of people who are like, but I can only drive an automatic. Well, suck it.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Learn how to drive sports cars, dudes.
Yeah.
That's the only people who are driving manuals are the young kids buying the BRZs, the GTIs, the SIs and stuff. So they're like, well, these are the kids who are going to buy this vehicle.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's for them. Oh, by the way, I just found that did not include Destination. Destination blows the whole 30K thing out of the water, although it's not crazy. 1,095. Considering you've been talking about cars that are like 13, 14 way up there, 1,095 suddenly sounds like a deal. And it says it's going to be reaching, next week. The first model's reaching dealers early August. I mean, technically it's August next week. This week. It's a Sunday.
Wait,
this week is August.
Oh my gosh.
How did that happen?
I know,
right?
Oh
my God, I'm so behind.
Yeah, same.
is getting, summer's almost gone.
Summertime.
But speaking of colors and summer, if you scroll down in that story that you are pointing to, that orange is lovely.
Yeah. It's really, it's this
nice burst of summer. Lord. That is a sunburst.
I like that. What do you think? Try to imagine in your head what that Cadillac would look like in that orange.
Oh, better.
Amazing.
Right? It's like just all to be orange colors and that bright orange hue instead of Manila, which makes me think of the envelopes.
Something cream. Something
Nilla
cream.
wafer. It was Nilla wafer colored.
Yeah. I always thought like the
not even Nilla wafer, like Nilla wafer yellow
Nilla
box.
Wafer?
It's Nilla wafer box colored. There we go.
Mm-hmm. Nilla wafer Cadillac.
Cadillac, Nilla wafer.
That's what we're looking for, but So, okay, Jill, this is a story that Sam pulled off of Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. Did I do it right?
Yes.
You're wrong. Okay, I always want to do it wrong. I know the words and I put them in the wrong order. Acura is ditching its in-car Sirius XM app. It's like, nope. Jill, tell us about what's going on in this story.
So it's really kind of funny because I'm not a music person. Like I get in, I plug in my phone to Apple CarPlay. Not that I'm complaining about there are automakers that are taking it out of their vehicles, but I plug into Apple CarPlay so I can listen to my podcasts when I'm driving 3 hours down to Indianapolis. And so I'm not really a music person. And when I recently had the opportunity to drive the 2025 Acura MDX and did a review, posted on my YouTube channel. And I am one of those rare birds who always reads comments. Like I always look at the comments, and if something needs a reply, I will reply. If somebody's being a jerk, I will tell them they're being a jerk by giving them a snarky reply in return. But I was reading through the comments, and somebody was like, "Why is nobody talking about the fact that Acura is taking XM radio out of their vehicles?" And I was like,
"Huh?
Acura's taking XM radio out of their vehicles? What?" So I went back to Acura and I said, "Hey, I got this comment, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't paying attention, didn't listen to music that much. I plugged in my phone and I was testing the new Bang & Olufsen sound system with my iTunes, because again, Apple CarPlay, and so I was listening that way, but I wasn't listening to the radio. I didn't even look for Sirius XM radio. And the Honda PR person I reached out to was like, yeah, so here's the thing. We just decided that this is a very curated, sound experience. And we think that if people really want XM radio, they can get the app on their phone and use it through Apple CarPlay." And I was just like, okay, that's not horrible. I mean, they do have the Spotify app because they with the new Acura MDX system, they went to Google built-in, and which is the Android Automotive operating system. And so they do have like the downloadable from the Apple CarPlay store, or not the Apple CarPlay store, because not Apple CarPlay, Google Play Store. They have a Spotify app. And so I think that like Google built-in is really pushing Spotify. And so I have a feeling that's probably why they removed XM radio. But because you do have Apple CarPlay, you can get the app on your phone, use it that way. And here, to me, I'm just like, that makes perfect sense. And by the way, it's a better idea because if you were going to do it in your car, I'm like talking, so I'm not looking at my article. But I feel like in the car, it's like $29 a month if you want the in-car, XM radio. However, if you put it on your phone and you connect through Apple CarPlay, you have access to more channels. I think it's like 415 channels, whereas in car you would only have access to like 129, and it's only $9 a month or like $9.99. Why wouldn't you do that?
Why wouldn't you do that? And you can, every car you get in, you have your station set up, you have your settings ready to go. You get in a rental car for whatever reason, you get in someone else's car. As long as it's not a GM EV, you can plug in your phone.
You're covered in that one case.
Yeah.
And I just said it is the maximum you'll pay monthly fee is $20.12, and there's a 2305 plan and a 1698 plan, or your 3 plans. So it's not cheap. Yeah.
So I'm just
we always get emails about, like, when we got they're like, hey, Sirius XM's always like, hey, do you want Sirius? No, we don't. We don't want it. Why? I have Apple. I have Apple Music. I have Spotify. Everything. If I want to listen to a certain song right now, I can do that. I can't do that with Sirius. I'm always like, whenever I get in one of the fleet cars, I'm always just like poking around trying to find a song I want to hear. I'm like, no. I guess I'll listen to this for 20 seconds.
And you don't have to worry about your phone cutting out like every time you go through a tunnel.
Yeah, or under a bridge or near some trees, or
right. Like it doesn't get cranky for all sorts of small little nothing things. You're like, what did I drive by? Did a leaf go over the car? Like a random leaf blew overhead and it's
extra large bird.
Yeah, it was a hawk. Oh crud! I lost my signal.
I will say in Chicago, I don't have signal issues, and I like to listen to Hits One because I like to hear what the new music is coming out.
What the kids are listening to.
Yeah, well, my husband does tell me I have the musical taste of a 13-year-old boy. So, yeah, I need to know what my counterparts are listening to so I can Shazam it.
Okay. Shazam. I just like that app. I love the name. That's the best name ever for an app. And it makes me think of an old show from back in the 70s, 80s, whatever that was. So, okay. So no more Sirius XM, but it really is not that big of a deal because you can still get it.
It's cheaper. We're saving you money.
We're saving you money.
So, a bigger deal. And this story really got my attention this week. Stellantis, Carlos Tavares, am I saying his name right? He is the CEO of Stellantis. And in chatting with reporters and such, he said, if our brands aren't performing, we got to kill them. We got to get rid of them. And his comments were basically like, we feel like we're doing maybe okay in in Europe, but we really gotta figure things out in the United States. And if we have to get rid of a brand in the US because it's underperforming, then we have to get rid of a brand in the US. So now everyone's going, yeah, he says, we consider that job is done in Europe. The job is not done in the US. And we are now going to take care of that work.
So
very threatening. What do you think is going to happen? The one Chrysler car.
Like, the new Dodge Pacifica. There you go. Done.
Ram
what do you think?
Come on.
Ram Pacifica? Having a Jeep Pacifica.
The fact that Ram became its own thing. I still call them Dodge Ram trucks in my brain.
Oh, you're that person.
Yeah, I have to stop myself from saying the Dodge Ram. Because that's a thing that was, and then they're like, no, we're making we're making trucks, their own thing. You're like, really? Fine. And now they have 1,000 brands.
Yeah, they have a lot of brands. So what do you think, if you had to guess, what do you think is safe and what do you think could be in trouble?
I mean, Chrysler only has one car.
And they have a concept that they've been showing for 4 years and haven't done anything about it.
You can just call it the Dodge, because the Dodge Caravan is a thing, and it's essentially just low-end Pacifica. So just call it the Dodge.
I don't think they make the Grand Caravan anymore.
But it was grand. It was great it was a great rental car. Now you get the Chrysler Voyager, which is just the
which is the rental version of the Pacifica.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you think Chrysler? Do you think just Chrysler? Do you think anything else could get axed in the US?
I think Fiat gets axed.
Because they just don't do any. What do they just have? The 500e that they just did in. Is it the 500e? I want to say 500e. They just revealed and they did
still have that little weird SUV. They still have that weird little SUV, the 500.
I thought they were just down to the one vehicle. Are they down to more?
No, I don't think they have the 500X or the 500. Was it L?
Fiat. Yeah, it's just all the 500s. Oh no, the 500X is still around.
Okay.
Okay, so we have
Because they don't do the Fiata anymore, do they?
No. 500e, 500e, 500. I'm looking at the 500e, 500e. There's like 4 different versions of the 500e. Oh, just because they have different themes. That's all that really is.
And then the 500X.
Inspired by beauty, inspired by music, inspired by Los Angeles. I was just going to be inspired by Lost. Well, inspired by Los Angeles, red, and then the 500X. It's not a lot.
I'm telling you, you just put Ram into Dodge, but that's just me being lazy.
So Fiat, you think Fiat could go away and Dodge could become Dodge Ram again because everybody would just be like, okay, we've been
everything under Dodge.
Right?
Fruit, done. The Dodge Fiat 500e.
So Dodge Ram Fiat Chrysler, just one name, but they're just going to pack it all in there. Just do initials like when they had FCA. DRFA.
No, don't give. You got to use Dodge. Dodge has been for.
Yeah, I can't imagine them getting rid of Dodge because that's such an iconic brand.
But Chrysler only has one car, but so was Chrysler once upon a time.
Fair. Like, Chrysler was the company.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's where so it's just like that one was a big one until it just kind of got down to being just a minivan.
Yeah.
It's a good minivan. At least we got that going for
it. It is a darn nice minivan.
It is a nice minivan. So then the going wisdom here on wheel bearings is we think Fiat could go, Dodge should become Dodge Ram, and Chrysler's minivan should just be part of the Dodge brand.
Yeah.
That's
Think Maserati will stay in the US?
Yeah, because Maserati still have some sort of pull.
And Alfa Romeo could actually maybe go away.
Or you could make the Fiat an Alfa Romeo.
I just think I think it's the infotainment system, man. They haven't redesigned it in 50 years. It's going away.
Yeah. So who do you think is totally safe? Not going anywhere for 100%.
Dodge
I would say, and I don't think they'll combine Dodge and Ram again. Yeah, I think Ram is safe.
Jeep's never going anywhere.
It has been a moneymaker, and I think Jeep is also safe.
Jeep has not been a moneymaker lately. They're like down 48% or something. But I think a lot of it, they axe the Cherokee, and I think that I feel like their lineup is so in flux. It's like people want a Jeep. People who want one are kind of like, you don't have what I want right now.
They're overpriced. They need to get their SHIT together and
they did bring pricing down some.
Yeah,
they did bring it down with new CEO. They brought it down some, but I don't know if they brought it down far enough. I think they're trying to I feel like that brand is okay. It just needs to figure itself out. It's like a little blob of Jello, needs to solidify. It's just like
another. Just say, hey, it's the new Jeep Wrangler, and don't really change anything, and then they'll just get a sales bump. That's all.
A whole bunch of people will just buy one just because it's like, oh, it's no Jeep Wrangler. What's different? I don't know. It's new.
It's the Jeep Wrangler. Everyone wants it. I have been telling people for decades, up until the current generation, don't buy a Jeep Wrangler unless you're like an off-road person and you're going to rip it apart and put it back together. And yet I would love a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
If you give me a crappy old Jeep Wrangler that oh my God, this is the best. Just taking the doors off, taking the windows off. It's a horrible, horrible decision. And
he loves that 4xe, that Wrangler plug-in hybrid. He loves it. It's his baby. He's so happy. I'll have the BZ4X. He's like, I don't want to drive that. Can you go in my car? Okay, fine. He just loves, opens the roof. He's like, it's sunny. It's all I guess if you love it, you love it. I think for the right person. So
you get the electric Jeep. It'll be I guess the Hummer was the first electric convertible, but I mean,
we won't be buying a Hummer, Robbie, in case you're wondering. That's not going to be happening. No. It's not on the list of things. The authorized purchase is no. That is not going to make
the invoice got kicked back. My concur was
that is past our budgeted limit, and a lot of other reasons. That's not going to be the vehicle that's going to replace that one day.
Yeah.
So on other EV stuff, the Volvo, they're saying that they might be kind of slowing down. They're sort of they're still going to EVing, but especially the deal with things being made in China. That the plug-in hybrids are remaining pretty strong. So they're going to continue for a little while. This was according to, I just lost his name as I was looking down, saying Jim Rowan. Sorry, I had John. I'm like, that's not it. Jim Rowan, CEO. I'm going to rename the guy. So he said it's going to take a little time to go from, hey, everybody, we love gas engines to, hey, everybody, we love electric vehicles. Is anybody surprised by this?
No, I think it's really down for all these companies. It's not even like it's demand because of the infrastructure, period. Like the infrastructure didn't get built out as quickly as they all had anticipated. And when you tell people you can buy a car, but it's gonna be tough to fuel it up, that's a that's a hard sell, especially in a lot of parts of the U.S. And then of course the China thing doesn't help because they were planning on building all their EVs in China, and now they got to build them all in Belgium.
Yeah.
So it changes it up. So it doesn't surprise me. And I think you're right, Robbie. I really think the thing that holds most people back from EVs, like I know they've been so politicized in the US, but I don't think that's what holds people back. I think it's genuinely, or even pricing. It's just, well, I'm a little scared of being stuck somewhere where I can't charge it. And it's not entirely, depending on where you live, that's not an entirely irrational fear, or depending on where you have to drive. If you're doing someone who drives road trips, even you, Jill, you're driving 3 hours to Indiana. It's not a huge drive, but it's not that you're in an EV. It could prove problematic.
There should be 4.
It should be 4.
But no, I mean, it's like I like was driving. I can't even remember what. I think it was. I can't remember what I was driving, but I was coming back on a busy weekend, and I knew I was not going to get 200 miles of range on the vehicle I was driving. So I had to, even though I was only putting 60 miles on the car, I had to stop in Lafayette, Indiana, where there's only 4 chargers in the back of a stupid Walmart parking lot, no bathrooms, unless you go into Walmart, and I don't need to go into Walmart. But and I had to wait 3 hours for a charger, and that's what scares people. It's just like, I can't wait 3 hours. So my 3-hour drive turned into a 6-hour drive, and it's no fun. And so, I mean, if people are thinking about that, they're like, maybe I'll go with a plug-in hybrid. Maybe I'll go with a hybrid. Maybe I'll just, I'll wait until the infrastructure is there. And everybody's like, well, in 1919, they didn't have, a whole bunch of gas stations. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah, but only 4 people had cars in 1919.
Exactly. I'm like, I will
like
ride
a regular
a horse.
person had a car, and people didn't really travel in 1919.
No, everybody.
No, everyone went like 5 miles from where they were born, and then they died.
Yeah, and I can do 5 miles in like an hour and a half. It's fine. I can walk that. But it's just like I cannot walk 200 miles in an hour and a half, or 3 hours, or even 6 hours, or it's going to take me a really long time. But so I think the infrastructure, Robbie, you nailed it. Like that's the biggest problem. I say there isn't range anxiety. There's infrastructure anxiety.
Yeah. That really is true. That's 100%. It's the infrastructure. People aren't worried like, oh, it's going to just die on me unexpectedly. I don't have enough range. It's like, no, I know exactly how much range I have, and I know where I'm going. And I'm worried that when I get there, I'm either going to not have a working charger. It's going to be a very slow charger. It's going to be backed up, and I'm going to be waiting for 3 hours. Like, by and large, it just doesn't happen. If you have a gas engine, you know that you can go, and it's like a whole gas station could be closed. And you're like, it's okay, I'll go 5 miles the other direction. I get another gas station.
It's on the other corner.
Right? Yeah, right across the street.
Let's go to one of the other 3 corners on this intersection and go to one of the other gas stations. Like you don't generally run into that. You don't. It has to be a major crisis to run into something where all the gas stations are not working and where you can't easily find someplace to gas up your car. Depending on where you live, the infrastructure, even in places where it's, where there is a better infrastructure, if you hit everything just wrong, it's a heavy travel day, or, it's during the holidays or what have you, you can run into situations where you and everybody else who went on a drive for the holidays is trying to charge their EVs. And this is a spot where everyone planned to charge. Oh, heads up, 500 other people decided to do that. And suddenly, instead of just waiting for a couple minutes because it's a long line at the gas station, you can be waiting for hours. And I don't think people are not ready for that. Nobody wants that. I like
even
these.
If people who don't do road trips, they still think they're going to do a road trip, and that's just sort of where your brain is. When I drove down to LA over the 4th of July weekend, like 2 of like the 5 major Electrify America charging stations along Interstate 5 were down, and there were 2 in a row.
Jeez.
And you're just like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is a major, and the other one was the one at the Mexican restaurant, which was great. But yeah, that's like, even if you don't actually do a road trip, you're thinking about doing a road trip, and it's really tough. And it's the reason why, in the Bay Area, like EV adoption is really, really high, is because I can't swing a stick without hitting a charging station.
Yeah.
Like there's one of the Electrify America stations near my house is down, but there's another one like a mile away over there. And then there's one like 4 miles over there. And then there's an EVgo 350 station, like even closer than both of those. And then there's a charge point station. Yeah. And until that is, but until that happens,
everywhere.
Everywhere. It's really hard for people to be really,
And I always say that the thing here is like, it's not even like people say, rural places. I live in New Hampshire. I'm not on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in a relatively, I'm 45 minutes outside of Boston, guys. It's not like I am, hours and hours away from civilization. Still, if I drive 45 minutes to Boston, there's options. If I go 45 minutes to the north, to the west, to a lot of places east, there just aren't a lot of places. 45 minutes is not a very long drive. If you just kind of want to head out for the day and like, let's check out this restaurant, let's check out this random thing. You're running into those situations where it's like, I can only wander exactly this far because this is all that I know that's here. And there's not another spot. And it does. I think of it all the time when we have an EV and we're just going to kind of like go wander on a weekend to a new place or a new restaurant, kind of go for a drive. Wait a minute. What's there when I do go for a drive? And there's not always a lot there. So it even if it's not like technically a road trip, it can still sort of put a hamper on your ability to
get around.
To not think about where you're driving, to not have to think about it. Yeah, people don't have to think about it.
Plus, these automakers, they have time. Like a lot of the regulatory issues with selling of gas engines, it's like 10 years away in California, 5 years. They got plenty of time. We have time to build out a proper infrastructure. It's just everyone was like, hey, Electrify America is building all these stations. Let's do it. Everyone was like super into it. And then they're like, whoa.
Yeah. The Electrify America stations are not that great.
Yeah.
So, but okay, one day EVs. In the meantime,
be like me, just move them to California and just drive EVs up and down the state like a crazy person eating Mexican food and getting angry because the EV's charging too quickly.
I can't stand no one ever.
I don't think you're the first human who's ever said your EV has charged too fast ever. Mark this.
It's happened a few times where you're just like, oh no, it's charging at like its proper rate. Like now we have the Ioniq 5 that charges like 220. If the station's working at 220, I'm there for maybe 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay, well now I got to sit in the car for 10 minutes.
Right.
And then go get the burrito.
And then get your burrito because you can't
run to the liquor store, get something to drink.
Okay, so on the non-EV front, you think you have challenges when you have an EV, but sometimes when you have a gas engine, you have problems too. This is another story we pulled from you, Jill. Toyota has a ginormous, I guess it's a pretty big engine recall. 100,000 Lexus LX and Tundra engines. What the heck went wrong, Jill? What went wrong?
Yeah. So this involves, I think, pretty much every 2022, 2023 Toyota Tundra and Lexus LX that was built. I mean, there's a certain build date that beyond it's not a problem, but apparently there was debris in the engine that didn't get cleared out before they finished putting everything back together. And so you've been having a lot of like engine failures. And, my boss, Tim Esterdal, and I have been talking about this a lot and writing about it a lot because at first it didn't look like it was going to be a thing. And then it became a thing. And then they had a recall for the thing, but they didn't have a fix for it. And so then people were like, well, all right, well, if you have a recall and my engine could fail any moment, let me trade it in for something else. And dealers were like, nope, we don't want your vehicle. And so then people are selling their cars at like a huge loss because they just don't want to deal with this thing that they don't know what the fix is for or when the fix is going to be available. Well, a fix is available. The fix is available. And it's replacing your whole engine. And so
that's crazy.
Yeah. And so letters are going to be going out fairly soon about this recall. And the idea is it's going to take, I think they said anywhere between 8 and 21 hours to completely replace the engine, which in dealer time, I think that translates to a week to like 3 weeks because I mean, your car is not the only car they're dealing with. They have oil changes and, wheels falling off and other things that they have to deal with in other vehicles. So they're just not dealing with, Toyota Tundra, Lexus LX engines. So you could potentially be without your car for a week to 3 weeks. And but I will say Toyota is making good. they are either going to give you a loaner car or they are going to pay for your rental. So, I mean, I don't know. People are like very angry about this recall, and it's from engines that were built in the United States as well as Mexico, so it's not blamed on one plant. So apparently, they all did the same bad thing to have debris in the engine.
Process thing, something with the process.
Yeah, was there a blower that they forgot to turn on?
82 steps. There should have been an 83rd.
Yeah. But I mean, this is on top of an issue that is currently going on with the Toyota Tacoma transmission. And so people are like, oh yeah, Toyota isn't as reliable as it once was. I'm like, okay, first off, they have a fix and you're not going to have to pay for it. And then once you have a completely new engine, everything will be golden. It'll be fine. But
you've had your car because this is like 22s and 23s. You could have had your car for like 2 years, put a lot of mileage on it potentially. And they're like, here, new engine.
Yeah, so here you go. You're welcome.
It's a pain in the butt. You're going to be either in a loaner or a rental for
maybe you'll get a Sienna. That's a nice
But you're going to get, you have a whole new engine. It's like new. Yeah. The car, it's like refurbished. That's not a bad thing. I mean, it's kind of in some ways so okay, is it replace my engine? Sure.
Is it a new engine, or do the first 20,000 get a new engine, and the rest of the 80,000 are they're just getting the engines and cleaning them and putting them back in refurbished engines?
It said replacement, right?
Yeah. I mean, it could be. It could be refurbished, but
you get some sweet cheap engines.
They are saying new. The only thing that I didn't get an answer to, and I need to circle back on this, is okay, so maybe you've already had this problem and you've already paid your own way for a complete engine replacement because of, I don't know, warranty, whatever. But I don't, maybe that didn't happen. But if you had to pay out of pocket at all for repairs or anything related to an engine issue, my question is Toyota going to reimburse owners for that?
I bet they are, because I know I would think that they would. I would hope that they would, because I know I've had once or twice I've had a recall on cars I've owned where it's something that broke. And then when they finally did the recall, I've already paid to have the repair because it wasn't covered under warranty. Had to rent a car once or twice because without a car. And when the recall came through, it was like, if you've already paid for this repair, reach out this way. And you had a little thing you could fill out. And it was like, I did keep the receipts from the repair. This is what I paid. So you weren't completely out of luck. And I feel like they made me whole. Volkswagen once years ago, I had paid for something and they made me whole at the end of it. So I would think that if this failed, hopefully there would be a way for customers who paid something or had to pay for a rental for 3 weeks or something stupid would be able to get their money back.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Developing story ongoing. So I'm sure we will have more on this.
Well, because your forms are so robust at your site. Why were people mad that the fix, I get it being mad that there's something wrong. That stinks. You don't have a car where something's wrong. And not knowing what the fix was. Now we have a fix. We're going to give you a new engine and we're going to give you a rental. Why are people still really mad?
Why is the sky blue?
Okay.
Yeah, people want to be mad about something.
People are going to be mad about, that people are going to be mad about anything.
Every Toyota Tundra comes with a coupon for free ice cream. Yeah, but I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, well you can go get something else. They have another coupon. Like, yeah, but I don't like cold things. My teeth. They're like, oh my god.
Here's a coffee. I can't drink caffeine. No.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say that
I'm saying push for the Sienna when you get the car.
No minivans. But no, I mean, there is a contingent that is like, they were angry, and now Toyota's made it better. And they're like, yay, see, Toyota really is awesome. So, I mean, it goes both ways. And I don't know. I think there's a thing, it's going to be fixed. It'll all work out in the end.
Every automaker has recalls. That's the thing. When you talk to the Tesla, people losing their goddamn minds every time there's a recall. They're like, "What is not a real recall?" I'm like, "No, it's a safety issue. Someone told you have to do it. It's called a recall." People just pick. I'm like, "No, everybody has recalls. Settle down."
Well, and the reality that everybody, the least reliable cars, the most reliable cars, the cheapest, the most expensive. It's not limited to anything. You can find. I mean, they do recalls on cars all the time. And as annoying as it is, the good thing about a recall on a car is like, hey, we found this problem. We don't want it to happen to you. We're going to pay to fix it. Would you rather have them be like, nah, not recalling your car? We know that part has a 50% chance of failing, but good luck with that. You want them to do recall when they find stuff.
It's a pain in the ass. You got to give up your truck especially if it's your work truck.
then it's
Yeah.
more of
Then
a
you're just like, oh, okay, this is a huge pain in the butt. But if you're just hauling air all the time, you're going to be fine driving a Camry for a week or two.
Yeah, well, and what I will say too is the recalls that happen, like there's a wide range of recalls. Like your vehicle could be recalled because the engine needs to be replaced, but it could also be recalled because there's a sticker that was placed improperly in your door sill. And
Right.
and so and some of these recalls involve one car, and some of the recalls involve 100,000 cars. And so Tim and I have kind of like we post recalls on our website, and I kind of set up the bar, I guess you could say. I'm like, I need more than 10,000 vehicles being recalled in order to put it on our website. Or if there were only, like Fisker Ocean, if there were only 10,000 cars being built, that's probably also worth putting on the website.
100% of the cars.
100% of the cars are being recalled. But I'm just like, so I need a volume, and I'm not going to put a recall up about a sticker. Like, why?
Yeah, you'll get an email or a letter. Hey, we got to take the sticker off. I'm like, no.
Yeah, your payload is $1,500 instead of $1,495.
Okay. Yeah, and that's one of those things. You're like, when I'm next in the dealership, they can swap that sticker out. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't need to make a trip for a new sticker. Yeah, there's some recalls that are really tiny and not sort of insignificant, but they make the rules, so they follow.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys, I think that's all I have for the week. Anything else to chat about, or we covered it?
I can't think of anything.
I feel like we've covered it. Jill, thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday morning to chat with us. And I'm sure.
Thank you for putting the seat back when you get out of the vehicle.
Yeah,
you are so welcome.
We appreciate you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good week.
All right. So even though I'm on vacation this week, the embargo lifted a couple of days ago on a new variant of the Corvette, which has been long rumored. And I got to visit a secret GM facility that has no signs on it. So you could drive by it and never know that it's the GM uses that building.
Oh, a secret.
I'm not going to say where it is.
Is it an old Circuit City?
No, actually, I don't think.
Oh my God! Did I crack the code? All old Circuit Cities are GM.
No. It was a former retail store, but I don't think it was a Circuit City. It may have been at some point in the past.
I know
it's
where
been
it
quite a
is.
while. It's been like 20 years since Circuit City went out of business. So
I think I know what this place is. I know what it is. I'm not going to say it. I'm
pretty sure you've been there, Nicole.
I have. All of a sudden you said that. I'm like, wait, old store. I know what it is.
Anyway, it's an unidentified location in Michigan, and they invited small groups of us, 2 at a time, to come and visit this place a few weeks ago. I was there with Wes Wren from Auto Week, and we got about an hour and a half with Taj Juster and the rest of the GM or the Chevy Corvette team, and they showed us the new 20. Well, they didn't say a model year, but I'm guessing it's going to be a 2026 Corvette ZR1. So it's coming out sometime in 2025. And the reason why they're showing it now is because they want to be able to let the world see what it looks like, and then they can strip off all the camo so that they can go and do the really high performance testing without the camouflage messing up the aerodynamics.
It's all flopping in the wind.
Yeah. You don't want that stuff flopping in the wind at 200 miles an hour. So even with the camo, what they told us was when they first took it to the Nordschleife a couple of months ago, the 4 test drivers that were running it, each of them got over 200 miles an hour on the back straight of the Nordschleife on their first lap around.
So super slow is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's kind of sluggish. It's not very quick. For years this thing has been rumored. For a long time there was thought that they might call it the Zora for Zora Arkus Duntov, who was he was the original chief engineer on the Corvette for like 20 odd years. No, they've decided to stick with the ZR1 branding for their top of the line Corvette. And this is the first factory production Corvette ever offered with turbochargers. There's 2 of them. And the reason they gave us for not having done a turbo engine before, a turbo V8 before, was because they couldn't fit them. They couldn't package it because the engine compartment was too narrow to really do the turbo setup right, and they didn't want to put them on top because that would be too high. So they always did superchargers before. Well, this time they've got the new LT7 V8, which is it's a 5.5 liter twin cam V8. It's actually the way this worked out is from the beginning of the C8 program, they were planning this thing, and they developed the LT6 and the LT7. So the LT6 is the naturally aspirated version of this engine that is in the current Z06 with like 670 horsepower, I think. The LT7 is a twin turbocharged version of that. And they designed them concurrently. They share a lot. They share the same block casting. And so the LT6 actually has some extra stuff on its block that is not used. There's some ports that are not machined out for extra oil circulation and coolant, stuff like that. But they use those on the LT7. So on this twin turbocharged version of this engine, it makes 1,064 horsepower.
That's insane.
Just a huge.
1,064.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, I think, we were expecting this thing would be somewhere, in an 850 horsepower. Now when Taj said, over 1,000 horsepower, it's like, whoa. This thing is going to be really fast. I mean, when I drove the Corvette E-Ray a couple of months ago, that thing only had 640 odd horsepower, and it did 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. So this has over 400 more horsepower. So
I can't even imagine what it would be like to drive this. I cannot even imagine. It would be madness.
Yeah.
Like wonderful madness, but madness.
Yeah. It's the same wide body setup as the Z06 and the E-Ray. And, one of the questions that was asked when they launched the Z06, you've got there's that trim piece, the black trim that goes around the front edge, the leading edge of the side scoops, the side vents, or scoops. Yeah. And on the Z06 and the E-Ray, there's a part that extends back from that leading edge. And people asked, why was it like that? And they couldn't say at the time, but it's because they designed all this body work at the same time for both models, the Z06 and the ZR1. On the ZR1, there's an extra air intake in that piece that extends back from that leading edge, which is for the rear brake ducts to feed more cooling air to the rear brakes.
Because you will need those if you're going using 1,000 horsepower.
You will need those. The other big change to the bodywork is the hood, the front cover, where on other Corvettes, if you open that up, there's a little frunk under there, so there's some storage space there. There's no storage space in the front of the ZR1 because it's got a whole bunch of extra cooling up there. There's more radiators, there's intercoolers for the turbos, and bigger engine cooling, just lots more cooling. And so there's a flow through vent up there that looks pretty much the same as the one on the Corvette race cars, on the GT3 race car, and also on the previous C8R. So the air flows through the front and then up and over the car body through that.
You don't need storage, and you're going as fast as you're going to go in this. Who needs storage?
That's right. I mean, you'll get there so fast you'll have plenty of time to do some shopping for whatever you need.
Buy what you need when you get there.
Yeah, it does still have the trunk in the back.
So you have that.
So I mean, yeah,
you just don't get the extra bit.
Yeah, exactly. What else? Carbon fiber roof is standard on this thing to lower the center of gravity. There's a base variant of the ZR1, they all have the same output, the same powertrain. The top speed is going to be about 215 miles an hour, or over 215 miles an hour. You can get it as a coupe or a convertible, and then you can also get the optional ZTK package, which gets you some extra aerodynamic bits and also different wheels and tires. So with the ZTK package, you get a big carbon fiber rear wing.
That thing is huge.
It is huge. And then there's a gurney flap that goes around the leading edge of that the air outlet on the front of the car. So that cooling outlet that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So with those changes, and there's also a bigger front splitter, and there may be some dive planes on there. With those changes, it has a little more drag, so the top speed will be slightly lower, but it'll generate over 1,200 pounds of downforce at 150 miles an hour.
Wow.
So, this thing will stick to the ground.
Yeah.
And another part of the ZTK package is you get carbon fiber wheels from Carbon Revolution in Australia. So they're pretty cool looking wheels. The engine internals, they've got they've beefed up the crankshaft. They've got beefier titanium connecting rods and piston pins. The piston pins are a little bit thicker, and the pistons themselves are a little bit thicker, and they're more deeply dished to lower the compression ratio from, I think it's about 12.3 to 1 on the Z06 to about 9 to 1, because this thing's going to generate a lot of boost. And so you don't need such a high compression ratio with that. Then the turbochargers, the two sides of the engine are kind of independently controlled. So there's this the intake plenum on the top. The two on the Z06 and the other Corvettes, there's a crossover pipe between the two to improve the airflow and help get air pumping into the engine. Because of the turbos on this thing, the two sides of the intake are completely independent. There's no crossover.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing is in the turbo itself, the wastegate is electrically actuated. So they can control that. And even when you lift off the throttle, they can close the wastegate and keep the pressure built up in the compressor, so that you don't have any throttle lag. You don't have any turbo lag. Yeah, no turbo lag.
It's always just in there spinning, ready to party.
Yeah. So you got really short exhaust headers on the side of the engine, feeding right into the turbo, and then that feeds into an air-to-liquid intercooler, and the liquid from that gets piped up to the front, which goes through another air-to-liquid heat exchanger to cool it off, and then comes back. So all that adds up to over 1,000 horsepower in this thing.
Wow.
Why do you need an electronic actuated turbo? Because I like to party.
Yeah, exactly. What else? The brakes.
Not enough. I mean, like there's but wait, there's more.
Never. Well, I mean, if you're gonna have 1,000 horsepower, you got to have good brakes too.
This is
the brakes. It's just your regular old brakes.
Yeah.
You just got to call somebody and say, "Hey, I'm going to be stopping. Yeah, get everyone out of the way."
Yeah, move everybody for the next mile and a half.
Standard carbon ceramic brakes from Brembo, but the rotors are different from the similar So the E-Ray and the Z06 also have carbon ceramic brakes as standard, but the material that they use for the rotors on the ZR1 is different. So the strands of carbon fibers are longer. So if you look at the material that they use on on most carbon ceramic brakes, if you look at it real close, you'll see the fibers are kind of just all randomized. On this, they're longer strands of carbon fiber, and they're oriented more radially, so from the center out in the rotor material, and so that gives better heat dissipation, makes them a little tougher, better heat dissipation, so you can stop consistently from 200 miles an hour.
That's an amazingly
Cool.
small detail. Like that's such an engineer.
If you look at the picture, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do they
it looks
still
totally different. Like the one on the when it shows the difference between the standard carbon ceramic and the what's on the zero, they look totally different. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they still squeak?
Oh yeah, certainly, absolutely. All carbon brakes squeak, but
They're like people buy these cars with like these carbon brakes, and they're like, my brakes squeak. You're like, yeah, that's exactly what they do.
carbon fiber. Yeah,
If you want to stop,
if you want good brakes, they're going to make noise. It's just the way the world works.
They're screaming at the world. I can stop whenever I want.
Whenever I want, I'll stop you and your 1,000 horsepower.
Quiet brakes they don't work as well. You got to have noisy brakes if you want them to really stop you consistently.
Yeah.
One other important detail about the ZR1, the return of the split rear window from the 1963 Stingray.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's got a split rear window again. It's functional. It's actually got slots in it for letting hot air out from the engine compartment, but it's got the split window.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's
That
back.
looks nice. That looks neat.
Yeah.
Can you see out the back?
That's a really
yeah, you can with the camera mirror.
Don't be
There you go.
I mean, even with the regular Corvettes, you can't really see out the back with a regular mirror. Yeah, you got to use the camera mirror.
Yeah,
you got to use the camera mirror.
The interiors, the cabin's unchanged. It's just like all the other C8s, so it still has that long wall of switches up the middle between the driver and the passenger. So the ZR1, we don't know how much it's going to cost. We don't know exactly when it's going to go on sale. But it ain't going to be cheap. I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 grand.
You think 200? Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that. When you listen to that list of technology and all the small details they've done to make this just so, that's not going to be a cheap car.
Yeah, it's not going to be inexpensive.
Yeah, the Z06 and the E-Ray are both like 105 to 110 grand. So I'm guessing this is probably going to be twice that. So but even, at 200 grand, still a bargain compared to any other vehicle that can get this kind of performance.
We should take that's what we think it's going to be. And then when they finally tell us pricing, we'll know who's closest. You have to pick a number. So you're going to say 200, Sam?
Yeah.
I'll go 210.
Oh, I'm going to go 180 because they like making it a deal.
100.
They could lose money on this and still it could be a Halo car. They'll be fine.
Okay, I'm going to write this down and we finally know.
Get Silverados out there. They're fine.
We finally know. We'll see who wins. We'll see who's right.
Okay. All right. What did you pick? 200?
I said 210. Yeah. He said 200. You said 180.
Okay.
So it's just going to be not even close to what any of us are saying.
It's 277 right now. We weren't even close.
Well, then Nicole would win because she said 210.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that is the Corvette ZR1 coming in 2025.
Woohoo!
Yeah, should be good for a few laughs.
I would think just a few kicks and giggles. It'll be fun.
But you got to be careful with 1,000 horsepower.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of Cars and Coffees videos. I think we all.
Yeah.
Don't be one of those videos, guys. Don't be a Cars and Coffee.
Please.
Cars and Coffee.
Please don't. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I'm back on my vacation again. Talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.